So welcome to Mind Shifters Radio, hour number 2. Today is Tuesday, May the 20th, 2025.
So, Barry, what's on your mind today?
Being balanced, staying out of old triggers. Um,
I have a suggestion.
Sounds like worksheet time.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. So rather than staying out of old triggers, if I were you, I'd head toward the old triggers and then do the work. Because it's only when you've got the triggers that you get to see what you need to work through. Otherwise, the mind is very, very good at keeping it all hidden. And if you keep it hidden from yourself, sooner or later it kills you. And that's the stuff death is made of. And there's a way back, got to be 40 years ago, I attended a medical conference, and there was a researcher from a place called the DeCourcy Clinic in Cincinnati. And they did a research project on aging and their conclusion. And I heard this conclusion once. It's been burned into my mind. I remembered it word for word ever since. And here's what they said as a result of their medical research on aging. Time is not toxic. Time has no effect on human tissue under any conditions. It is a belief in the effect of time by those who subscribe to such a belief that acts as a poison. I.e., if we hold something we're not willing to approach and work through, that literally is the stuff that aging and death are made of. So you might want to shift your thinking about that and invite the triggers in and say, I'm ready to do the work.
Well, I have about 3 things to say, and then I'm hearing several of your words besides today. I mean the story about the guys being busy in jail,
Right.
The addiction to one's own story.
Actually,
And
it's even people get stuck in their story. But what I'm realizing, since I started to do the Quantum StillPoint with people, what I'm realizing is that people are actually, and this breaks that addiction, at least in every case I've done so far. One person, it took them a couple of months to come up with this conclusion on their own. But the it's not so much the story, it's just the energetic dynamics stored in carbon-based memory. It's like what I'm realizing is what in the ancient scriptures they called the mind of man, i.e. the body's so-called body's mind, the firing of brain cells, has a structure, and it holds that whole structure in place until that thing is cracked. And that's what the quantum still point is doing, is cracking that addiction. And I think that's the basic addiction that needs to ultimately be broken. It doesn't, when it breaks, the people that I've had feed that back to me, it doesn't mean they're finished with their work. They just realize, oh, here's another piece of work to do, rather than, going nuts in when it comes up, when it moves.
somewhere between October and December, I don't remember if it was October or December, you introduced me to, telling me about a more powerful healing, and I think it was, I'll say it's speed wise. I mean, getting right to the point and having shift and all that. And
yeah, that's the quantum still point I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, I know that because
Okay.
when you invited me to go, I did not in front of everyone say have this. Well, if you had asked me, told me about it a while ago, I would have said, how about making it the following week? Because I'm already committed to Saturday at the convention. I registered 20 or 30 people to go into the jail from the.
Right.
I have to be there. I have to be there
Yeah.
so that I can go there again. And
Well,
then I was thinking about, well, maybe I'll just leave after it and I'll just come up. But then the truth is, even though I made this nice deal, the money doesn't click in until sometime in the second week of July. And
well,
I've
that's
been
not a big deal. We can always work around that. if it's something you want to do, I actually just sent a text out to the people. We're going to have a very small intensive starting on the 23rd. And I actually about 45 minutes ago sent them out a text saying, by the way, I've talked to the facility and they have space if anybody wants to do the quantum still point and, do that 3-day following the intensive, which of course is perfect prep for taking the whole quantum to the next level. So if that's something you want to do, get on your horse and get up here and, we'll work the money out. That's not a big deal one way or the other. It's a month down the road or 2 months down the road or whatever.
Okay, so I've said to you that one of the shifts that I've made is I don't spend money that I don't have. My last bankruptcy was associated with my using borrowed money.
I hear you.
Millions of dollars, literally.
Yeah.
My last bankruptcy was a couple of $1 million, and I've been doing really well to stay in the being humble about this or stay in humility of it just felt right to me. On the other hand, trust me, as you were saying this to me over the last couple of times, I've had a desire to do it, and I'm dealing with cognitive dissonance around the decision that I made, and the best I can say is I rationalized it. And less than 8 weeks now, I'll know whether I, made the right decision or if it was Groundhog Day. Now, I had the sense that you were saying that, well, maybe if I did the work, the money would flow. You didn't use those words, but that was my sense that, whatever was in my past, because I dare say to you, yesterday, I had such a positive feeling about the clarity that I got about left brain and right brain yesterday, because I've been talking about it for 30 plus years, and viewing the left brain as a biocomputer, pure computer, and the right brain as being pure spirit or connected to it just felt all in place. And this is day 2 now. I had 2 days off from stress, and it's building again. The daily stressors. I don't know. I'm laughing at myself. There have been so many times over the last 30 years on that occasion when you'll call me and remind me. And then I'm like the guys in jail, guys in prison.
So busy. It's a big addiction to give up.
And I'm busy, but at least I'm limiting my busyness to 8 hours a day, 5 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. That's it. And I'm here because I don't have business until 2 o'clock, and I'm doing it now, although it feels like to me, or the thought comes, it's not that this is work, but I'm dragging the work into the moment, but then that's part of the work. So here I am. So what do you suggest that we do for the next hour? 43 minutes.
Well, we just had a young lady come in, although I'm not seeing her. Jeannie, do you see
Tammy? Yeah, I can see her.
Oh, okay. She's not showing up on my screen. Let's say hello to Cami. We've got something strange happening, Cami. We were on for about 6 minutes and there was nobody here. And then Barry came on, a friend you've heard of him speaking before from Florida. And so Cami is actually a young lady who was the most recent person that did the Quantum StillPoint. She came and did that about how long ago is that now, Cami? 2 months?
In here.
You're muted, Cammy.
Hit *6, Cami, or your mute button.
Okay.
Yeah, there.
It was in March.
So we were just
months.
kind of talking about the quantum still point and Barry. Barry's been hanging around the work about the same length of time you have, maybe actually a little longer. He started, what did we figure out, about 35 years ago, Barry? Third of a century or
32,
so?
30, 32 years and 4 months.
32 years and 4 months. And so we've been talking for a while now about him doing quantum still point. And so maybe you could share a little bit about
What was your experience?
and Cammie has been doing the work for about 25 years and has been at Heartland. She's been on the support team. She's done several intensives, so she's got a good sense of what's different, what's the same, or what happens.
It's so I found it incredible. I found that it opened spaces into genetics in a way that I had never even imagined. Even to my father, whom I've never met. And like I could breathe, I can breathe so much deeper. And
Are you talking physiologically now?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm not like, it's hard to describe the experience. It is for me anyway. I haven't really thought about how to describe it. The main thing that I see is that I have been stuck in my story, and it's like to the point that it became an addiction. Like I was just stuck in, ever since I was in my 20s, and I'm 60 now, that it was just like this replay of the story constantly going on except for when I did experience like times of bliss when I was really doing the work really well and diligent with it, because I haven't always been diligent. And I have gotten so many just amazing awarenesses since we did that, that have totally changed my life, totally changed my outlook on things that I've been struggling with since I was in my 20s. It's indescribable. Like, I can't recommend it enough.
Here's my I've been doing it with people now for about a year and a half, and getting the feedback as I've gotten from you and from others. And what I'm seeing that's different is that, I used the analogy yesterday of the antenna. There's 100-point signal strength out there. We've got a perfectly aligned and structured antenna. And so inside of the wiring from the antenna, there's 100 points of signal strength. If somebody goes up and breaks all the arms, bends the arms, turns the antenna backward, you might get, because of the misalignment, you might get 10 points of signal strength. It's going to be poor picture, poor sound. Things aren't going to work very well.
Right.
The shape of an antenna determines the frequencies it receives. And my take is that the bony structure of the body is literally the antenna. And the core place, there are two things. If you remember, one of the things we looked at the first night was the video on cymatics, the power of sound to organize structure.
Right.
And literally the place where we create, they talk about the universe was spoken into existence. We speak into our lives what is going to become our physiology, and what we don't want to deal with, what gets locked into tissue sooner or later. I was saying to Barry before you came on, literally, if we don't face it and deal with it, that's what kills us. And so we're really going to the core of the antenna, working with learning to physiologically let go of resistance so that the body can turn into a superconductor. And then opening up the core of the antenna so that it can at least begin to move into its proper alignment away from whatever has either physically or emotionally traumatized it. That's kind of what I'm understanding it to be at this point.
And I would say that that has to do with like why I'm like so much more open. My I'm changing my speech like I had gotten away from it, and I'm just noticing my speech more. And I don't know if that's coming back from when I was doing things wholeheartedly before, or if it's that opening, but the awarenesses that are coming are like they're just a much deeper level than anything I've ever experienced since then. And that's life hasn't changed.
How many still point sessions have you done since you started doing the work, what, 25 years ago?
Oh gosh, I
At
used to do.
Heartland, you've probably done, I don't know, 30 in the times you've been at Heartland.
I couldn't even begin to count how many still point sessions I've done. There was a period of quite a stretch, a period of time that I was doing 1 or 2 still point sessions a day for several years. And this has been, and I've had a lot of healings from it. Physically, just from regular still point, they wanted to do surgery on my arm. I had no range of motion and very little range of motion. They told me I had an MRI. They told me surgery was the only way to fix it. And with regular still point, I was able to heal that. That was in my 30s. And I have full range of motion with no pain and have had just from regular still point. But this is, uh, the best way I can describe it is I just feel so much lighter and open and willing, and the like I see like just such a deeper level of healing happening. And I just came back to doing the work after a long stretch of not, just kind of playing with it a little bit here and there. I just came back to it, and I feel like in this last 2 months since I've done the Quantum StillPoint, I've grown way more than I did all those years. I know they all build on each other. I don't want to take away from that. It's just been incredible.
It's quite literally a quantum leap, and I'm talking
Yeah.
literally physiologically quantum. It's working in the quantum physics realm, as opposed to still point opens and puts people into process. But I haven't seen anything. Again, it's just feedback that I'm getting so far. I don't have a hard conclusion to it, but I think that what's happening is it is breaking that addiction. When that antenna shifts, it's breaking the addiction to what the mind has been holding in place for who knows how many generations in each of our bloodlines. And welcome, Celinda. We're just kind of having a personal conversation. Jeannie and I started out, and there was a 5 or 6 minute period where there was nobody here, which we've never had happen before on the show. And then Barry chimed in, and Cammie came in, and Celinda's here. So let's just say hello to Celinda and welcome.
Hi, Celinda.
You have
And
to
if you hit
hit
star
star
6,
six.
it'll unmute you, Celinda, if you want to verbally participate.
Okay. Am I there?
You're
Am I
loud and
there?
clear. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you
So this
so
is
much
an
for
informal
moving me.
conversation today.
Oh, good. Thank you, everybody, and hello, everybody. And I'm so glad you're on Zoom. It's so easy. And thank
Cool.
you. And I'm glad
So
to
are
be
we.
back.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to chat with people. That was a long time to just do monologues every show.
Right. But it was a learning experience, right?
It definitely was that.
Yeah. And so I'm glad that we're all able and that can go to all those podcasts and get out in the world, and it's working. Yay.
Definitely, yay.
One candle at a time.
That's what it takes.
I used to love that about the Christmas Mass, when they would darken the church. And then one person would light a candle. Pretty awesome. Went around. Did you ever do
Anything?
that?
Did I ever do
The candle lighting
the
ceremony?
candle? And, oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah, it's just like one-on-one. Thank every one of you for your conversation today. It's sort of like, I don't know whether I'm building brain cells or whether I'm being willing to look at my stuff now in a different way. We just keep hitting our heads against the door frame until suddenly we say, oh, it must be forgiveness work time. And there's only one here in the room, and that's me. So thank you all for everything.
Honored and
Thank you.
delighted.
And
Thank
that's
you,
all I have
Sonda.
to say. Thank
Cool.
you. And then please keep sharing. I'm going to listen today.
Okay. So, Cami, any more to say about your experience?
I feel like, so what's happening, one of the big things that's happening is with the worksheets that I see them, everything's just at a much deeper level. Where I used to prefer mind shifters to worksheets, I'm getting amazing awarenesses from the worksheets now. And I still get them from the mind shifters, but the worksheet process doesn't take as much time, so I can just
Right.
sit down and do it quickly when something comes up. Life is just flowing easier. There was something else I wanted to say and I can't remember what it was.
Well, we'll breathe with you and ask you to come back if it wishes to. And maybe Barry has a thought for us.
A thought. Okay. I'm
Or
fully
a question.
present. Let's see. So I'm gonna leave it. Part of my wanting to come today was to say what I said when we were alone, in terms of my life schedule and commitments. And I don't know what day it will be, but I'm pretty sure, based upon the relationship that I'm building with another now, because I've been out of relationship for a while, and I'm looking forward to having what John Lilly used to talk about. Him and his wife wrote a book in the 70s about the dyadic cyclone, about what a healthy relationship could be. And since my marriage was not that way, I didn't have a good example. I was repeating, childhood stuff. And now, that I've been on a spiritual path for about the last 50 years, ranging from, seeking through prayer and medication to improve my conscious contact, to doing it clean now for many decades. I'm looking forward to doing this, and I'm not going to set a date. I'm very much in a one day at a time now. So I'll show up again. Who knows? I might have a stack of worksheets the next time I pop up in here and have questions. It was very magical, Jeannie and Michael, the day that today is Tuesday. It wasn't that many weeks ago. I think it was like around on the 6th of the month. Would the days match? Today's the 20th. Yeah. So it was only 2 weeks ago. It seems like a year in terms of the stuff that I had to process in business in my life. But that there I was early, that the window opened for you to catch me, and before I went to meet with the businessman, that I had an opportunity to do a little processing, and I'm laughing because
That was a nice coincidence.
it was, yeah, well, yeah, we call most coincidences God incidences, as I recall, but I'm I've learned it's better not to make a commitment that I can't fulfill, and that one of my other spiritual teachers in life, the guy that sponsored me for almost 30 years, from about 90 days clean until he passed, would say that there's really only two ways to fulfill a promise, and one is to fulfill the promise, and the other is to overfulfill the promise. And so I'm really careful about what I say, because at some point in the last year, when you gave me a little nudge, oh yeah, I'm going to do that, and then it was like the prisoners, the first day I did 3, the second day I did 1, and after that I was too busy.
Yeah, I hear you.
On the other hand, I take a lot of the work in what I do, in 12-step recovery, and I do reach a lot of people. I have a good inner sense of purpose and well-being in what I achieve there, possibly even more good feeling than I do about the fact that I'm in the midst of energy and environmental stuff that could be, world changing. Anyway, so love rules. The clearest thing that I've pulled over the decades is it's replaced pieces of the carbon-based memory, as you would call it. I'll just say my the committee in between my ears, which I'm now a little more clear that it's really left brain stuff. Yesterday was very good for me, between that, getting clear about left brain and right brain.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, that just managing the disease of more, and looking for the disease for living, for life. That was another piece of yesterday that I appreciated, hearing again, because I've been the prodigal son returns, or something like that. I don't know what to say. Enough out of me.
Welcome home.
Out of me.
Cool. And Miss Susan has joined us. And Susan, we've had an unusual occurrence today. We started the show, and for about 6 minutes, it was just Jeannie and I. In 15 years, we'd not had that. And then Barry came on and Cammie came on, and Selena came on, and now you're here. So we're just kind of doing a family conversation as each member of the family joins in. So welcome.
Yeah.
We haven't been
Thanks.
able to
Well,
talk for a while.
yeah, my son is in the middle of moving and he asked me to stay in a bedroom with a dog. So I thought, okay, I can dial into the show. Yeah, it's great to come on. Thanks.
Cool. Anything exciting in your mind at this moment?
Well, this whole move is like, we've been together as a family for 20 years and he's moving away. So that's exciting in many ways, good and bad, mostly good.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't have, well, I had a great talk with Dr. Tim about the exclusivity of certain Christian evangelicals who tell everybody that they are going to go to hell unless they claim Jesus as their Lord and Lord of all. And if other people don't do that, they're in trouble. And Dr. Tim made the very good distinction between being right and distinctions, being right, knowing what the truth is, which I don't know if anybody really knows, and the desire to stay connected to this grandson. And that's my top goal, is to stay connected with him and to support him in
Awesome.
whatever he's doing. And it was reorienting. It was just great. So Dr. Tim always says, and you say too, I think, when you notice a tightening in your chest or any sign of upset, zero in on that, forget about whatever else is going on, and realize that you are in error because you want to prove something or protect something. You're in fear, basically, and that is true for me. So it was a very good show, and now here we are, and yeah, this is like a family gathering. We'll get the hang of it. Sorry for being so late. After my son moves, I'll be back on schedule, so it shouldn't happen.
Well, delighted that you're here.
Thanks.
Cami, any other thoughts coming to mind for you?
One of the things that I wanted to say that I thought about was I quit smoking when I went up there for the Quantum StillPoint.
I think you quit when you got
And
out of the car when you arrived, didn't you?
I did. I had my last cigarette on my way there.
And how many times have you quit now? Like you're an expert at it, right?
I am well, it's been a long time, but when I was younger, I used to play with it a lot. And then I used to quit every time I'd go to Heartland, and within weeks, I'd pick them back up. And I have a lot of stressful things going on in my life, and I have not picked up a cigarette since March 2nd.
Awesome. Big step there. Has there been the inclination to pick up the cigarette?
To treatment when I was 24, and I had relapsed I had relapsed numerous times, but I had relapsed really bad recently, and I'm only a couple years sober. And I just found that Quantum StillPoint to be just so pivotal. And the fact that I quit smoking amazes me, just amazes me. Not saying I don't have cravings anymore. So I've had a lot of addictions fall away with no desire, really. Sometimes I still get the desire to snatch a cigarette out of somebody's hand. Not gonna lie. But with the other stuff, when I catch myself getting into my story, it's like, okay, do a worksheet. Okay, it's like it's automatic now.
Well, that's the main feedback I've gotten from everybody is they're not locked into when it's triggered, that they're not locked in. They can go, oh, well, I've got more work to do. I'm not finished with this, but it's not that urgent, you know. crashing into the past sort of thing.
It's not, it's like it's less work now. It just comes.
Yeah.
Like before I used to work so hard at it to try to find what that piece was that was missing, what that other piece was that was missing that would bring me to a higher state of being love. And it's done that. I still have a lot of issues that are coming up, but it's just going so much easier.
Sweet. That's awesome. Very cool. So anyone else, anything on your mind? Thoughts? Anything to share? Jeannie, anything for you to share?
Well, I got an all clear from the doctor. Went back today for my 2-week checkup. He actually said that they had got a second precancerous mass or whatever while they were in there. So I got a 2-for-1. And he was actually telling Michael that he was glad that we had the conversation prior to the surgery. Their typical is just to take from the small intestine all the way up. And Michael was like, just take out the part that has the mass in it and leave the appendix and all those other parts. And so he said that, they were able to do that. And he was really glad that we had had that conversation prior to surgery and that they had listened and were able to just take out like 5 inches of colon instead of the whole ascending colon. And so anyway, other than 4 more weeks of not lifting or straining, and which means Michael's still on baby duty, but
And that's cool. It's like a delight.
So I was really pleased with how everything came out, and that I'm all clear and free to go, and just no lifting for 4 weeks. But also then we could announce that during the intensive, so that Michael could focus on, the afternoon classes and the evening classes and everything, we're doing pre-recorded shows during the intensive. So this coming Friday will be Codependence Part 1. So all of these tie in with the, Michael's been doing the codependence and the pseudo solutions and the power person dynamics for the last several weeks on the radio show. So this will fall right in line with that. So Friday will be Codependence Part 1. Then Monday, the 26th, will be Codependence Part 2. Then Communication Part 1, Communication Part 2, Healing Through Relationships Part 1, and Healing Through Relationships Part 2. So that's a series that we will, and it's pre-recorded on Podbean. So if you're not in the intensive, you can go to the Podbean app and pick it up. And of course, afterwards, I'll put it over on YouTube or on Podetize. But if you want to catch it while it's happening, you'll have to go to the Podbean app to do that. And,
So starting Friday through the following Friday for the weekend day, we won't be on Zoom. We'll be back on Podbean. And if you download the Podbean app and register, it'll send you a notification like Needle did. So
yeah. And other than a couple of days, I have an appointment here and there. But otherwise, because Michael's going to be gone, I can't take care of the baby. So they're making other arrangements for the whole week. So I'll get to be in attendance at the intensive. So that's
perfect.
cool.
Yeah, it is.
Fabulous, Jeannie.
Yay.
So I'll throw one more thing out there in terms of
Go for it, Barry.
My gratitude, really the progress, not perfection. And the most consistent thing that has evolved with me is taking, 2 things that you've said over time. anything unlike love doesn't belong in my cell structure. I heard that 32 years ago in 4 months. And also that personal power comes from the capacity to be continuously aware of and function from one's highest guidance. And the cosmic joke on me is, from my 12-step participation, really spiritual path through 12 steps, is that, at least for the last 20 plus years, I would, orate that my greatest defect of character was ignoring knowing better, and that to me meant having step 10 and 11 linked, having the consistency of conscious awareness, conscious, active, and present, And
Right.
so when I chose to come in the meeting, I figured that I could at least pick an appropriate t-shirt to wear. I'm done.
Cool. Well, holding the space, and awesome that you're here today. And we've got about another 10 minutes. If anyone has any thoughts, once we start into just the conversation, it doesn't make sense to get into material at this point. So if anybody has anything to bring in, it's kind of cool that everybody on the show right now has been in the work for a long time. I'm trying to remember, Celinda, you once told me when you first contacted me several years ago that you had run into my work, I don't know, some 30 years earlier. I don't remember exactly, but how long do you have a recollection of how long you've been playing with us?
Well, it was like something between 1992 and 1993 that I received your 4 Why Is This Happening to Me Again cassettes. Well, they weren't cassettes. They were what the
DVDs?
previous DVDs. They're previous to DVDs, whatever that was.
VHS.
Oh, the VHS
Yeah,
tapes. Oh, the tapes. Oh my God. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Too long ago. But when I was in Joseph, Oregon, and it was a land from a friend, and I played them over and over, and I took pages of notes from them. And then the pages of notes went into my library and kind of sat there. And I remember somehow in New Mexico in probably the late 90s, early 2000s, I ran across somewhere that you had written a book. And I thought, well, I'll wait till that gets on a book. But the waiting ended up being 2019 when something said to me, just before COVID hit, something said to me, see if you can find Why Is This Happening to Me Again on a books. So I did. And of course, I found your 800 number that was in the book. I think I got it for $5 or something. And free shipping. And so I called you up, and that's when you and I talked, and I said, well, it's been 30 years since, just about 30 years since I had listened to those DVDs, VHSs, and I've been listening to the program ever since.
Well, it's always interesting to hear how the connections occur, and the number of places I've been in the world. I remember one day I was walking down the street in Bermuda, and somebody comes over and says, "Hey, are you Michael Ryce?" And different places, and how people accidentally fell into the work and connected with it. It's always fun to hear how that happened. So everybody that's on it with, when I say family, everybody that's here has been at least 30 years in the work. That's pretty cool. A third of a century, it's just amazing.
Right. It's amazing because Spirit, I really think of the Holy Spirit, Mama, what I call Nanny God or Mama God. I really think of her as like smoke or wind. She'll go, or water, she'll go through any crack any crack, and she doesn't care where it is. You know, it can be probably in voodooism. If that's the only crack she has, she'll reach that person somehow who's ready.
Yes.
She'll go and meet them where they are. And I was, you know, my whole thing about perfectionism and I've got to be perfect and all of this, that what happened was I have finally come to the point is I'm a hard nut to crack. But it reminds, in relation to my resistance, you know, there's just a lot of stuff down there I don't want to look at. And now it's kind of coming up in my dreams. And I just had one dream the other night where I somehow I had a tapeworm or something. And I was thinking, oh my God, in the dream, this is horrible, you know, sort of like Bishop Fenelon. I was like, oh, these horrible reptiles. Only tapeworm is worse than, I don't know if it's worse than a reptile. So anyway, and all as I got up, and because Tim had been reading The Way of Mastery and I was listening to it, all of a sudden this little voice said, all events are neutral, tapeworms are neutral. How are you going to respond to them? And you're going to keep beating yourself up with your own unworthiness. And I just said, and then when Larry and I have arguments, which are very much fewer and farther between now, but we still are working on our primary foundational issues, I just have to say, it's back to the drawing board. You know, we're never done, as Tim said.
Next layer.
Yeah, next layer. So I remember Julie, who moved to Spain, saying, I am the most unwilling person I know. I just laughed when I heard her. And one quick thing, if we have time. In total honor for your point of view, Michael, what I have discovered is, for me and my experience, is I use my fear as an addiction to cover my rage. And what if I go deep enough in my fear and I dissolve the fears, I bring up the little tiny person that wanted to strike back because she couldn't get what she wanted, but is afraid to strike back because she got hurt. And even though intellectually I've forgiven that little girl, that little goal to be respected and honored,
Right.
gently disciplined, is still there, and it's the one I need to work on. But also I realized at the same time, and also when I realized at the same time that is true on one hand, the other thing I learned is all I have to ask and all I have to be willing is to have the Holy Spirit guide me, and miracles can happen, because
Right.
I've linked my vision to that. I've linked my candidiasis to that, all kinds of things. So it's all one soup, and we're all swimming in it. By grace, with the lifesaver around our little tummies and chests
Right.
of Nanny Ruha.
Well, you had mentioned earlier. You had mentioned earlier, Celinda, the idea of the candle, and I just found the poem that was written during the Russian occupation of its own country, and this poem was so powerful. I thought I'd share it to close out today.
That would be sweet. It brings tears to my eyes every time I hear it. Okay, yeah. I'll cancel out here.
Oh, if you got something else to share, go for it.
Okay. I'm okay.
Okay. So this poem is written, we are not saints. We are not heroes. Our lives are lived in the quiet corners of the ordinary. We build our tiny hearth fires, sometimes barely strong enough to give off warmth. But to the person lost in the darkness, our tiny flame may be the road to safety, the path to salvation. It is not given to us to know who is lost in the darkness that surrounds us, or even if our light is seen. We can only know that against even the smallest of lights, darkness cannot stand. A sailor lost at sea can be guided home by a single candle. A person lost in a wood can be led to safety by a flickering flame. It is not an issue of quality or intensity or purity. It is simply an issue of the presence of light. And that was written by an unknown author in Omsk, Siberia, during the collapse of the Soviet Union. I thought that was pretty profound. So
It's
thank you
pretty
each for
profound.
joining
Oh,
us.
man.
Yeah, it's powerful. So thanks for bringing up the candle. I needed to read that poem again. So family, have the best year yet of your eternal life.